Welcome to the Trailhead from Ultra Sign Up, where big adventures begin. Trail running is so much more than just a sport. It's a community, a culture, a way of seeing the world. On this show, we're not dissecting splits or debating shoe specs. We're here to get to the heart of it all, the people, the places, and the stories that speak to the soul of the sport. Join me, Zoe Rome, and my co-host, Brendan Leonard, as we'll bring you conversations with the everyday athletes, local legends, quirky characters, and creative minds who make trail running what it is. Messy, joyful, gritty, and deeply human. Because it's not just about chasing finish lines. It's about the friendships forged on long climbs, the lessons learned in the pain cave, and the weird, wild moments that remind us why this sport is about so much more than the miles. So pumped to have you, Katie. Welcome to the Trailhead.
Thanks. Yeah, good to be here. Nice to see you guys again. I guess it's been a while since I've seen either of you.
Yeah. And you are currently stateside training for Hardrock. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my partner Jarmo and I are both running Hardrock this year, and we decided to come over a bit early, both to experience the area and feel like we know the place a little bit more than just coming for the race. And then, of course, there's the whole altitude component of Hardrock that is important to keep in mind, which is a lot harder to achieve in Europe than it is in the US. So a few different reasons for coming early, but we're happy to be here. We arrived in mid-May, I believe, in Leadville for a few days to see some folks there. And I had spent a little bit of time in Leadville before, but nothing more than like a day. Actually, we had both gone through Leadville together when we ran Trans Rockies together in 2017. So we actually had only slept in Leadville once, and it was on the soccer field in a tent. So we were happy to have a house that's there, an Airbnb this time.
Slightly upgraded experience.
Yeah. And we had fun checking out some of the trails there. It was still pretty snowy it was still spring. So, but we did get up Elbert and had a lot of trouble breathing and adapting through jet lag and altitude and dryness. And after that, we were in Ouray for, I think 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 4 weeks before moving up to Silverton just last week. So, we've spent like a good amount of time in a few different places, and have had fun, like kind of getting to the point where we feel almost like locals in each place we get to. So, and then leaving.
Yeah. Has any particular place, like mountain range, trail, location stuck out to you so far that you've particularly enjoyed?
We've been here, I feel like we went kind of through 2 seasons already. We did like the late spring snow, mud, a bit rainier, and then it got really hot suddenly like 2 weeks ago in Ouray. So we've kind of seen different things at different times of year, I guess. Leadville was really nice just for the space, and some of the trails around Elbert we really enjoyed. But we didn't get to explore as much as we would have liked because there was so much snow. So I think that requires another visit. We did really like Ouray. We got there before the ATV madness began. And we were like, it was pretty dead, and it was kind of just us and a few tourists around. And we really liked the steep valley there. Like, you really feel like you're in the mountains because you have like the cliffs on both sides. And so far, Silverton's been nice, but I think we missed that like steep valley feeling, which is more like what we're used to at home.
No chance. Like, you're not thinking about moving back. You're not looking at real estate or anything.
I think we did say, like, if we were to live in the US, this is like something around here could be a possibility. But for now we like the Alps. There also is like kind of a shortage of, well, actually, I mean, I don't know what I'm saying. We don't have good coffee where we live, but there's definitely a shortage of good coffee.
Yeah. Coffee game in the San Juans, maybe not as strong as it could be. With the exception, Coffee Bear, shout out. Thanks, guys, for fueling Minnie an early morning in the San Juans. Besides maybe the obvious, what drew you to Hardrock? And you and your partner are both doing it. How did you pull that off? And Why Hardrock?
Um, So I mean, it's kind of hard to find like a beginning of being interested in a race. I think I've said in other places, when I was working in the White Mountain huts, there was a guy who used to come up and train, a guy and his friend and their wives actually would come up and train on the trails next to the hut where I worked, and they were training for Hardrock. And that's when I first learned about it, but I didn't know it was like, I mean, I didn't know this sport of ultra running really existed. I just heard about this like strange event he was doing in Colorado and thought, oh, interesting, like cool. I mean, I love the trails near the hut where I worked, so thought it was cool that that's where he was like preparing for this thing in Colorado. But after that, I would say like once I got more into the sport and learned more about like different races, yeah, I think it's just one of the races you hear about so much. Like, there's so much media around it too. And it's definitely, at least in France, considered like one of the four big 100-mile races with UTMB, Western States, Diagonal Defu, and Hardrock. I know the Americans maybe have like a different four or a different number, but that's like the
Our Mount
French.
Rushmore might be slightly different, but a
Yeah,
lot of overlap too.
for sure. Yeah, maybe the Diagonal Defu thing is more French centric, but those are kind of like the four big 100-mile races, at least how I see them. And yeah, I clearly have not run Hardrock yet, so it was one I was kind of saving until I felt ready. It's definitely more of a coordination of time and travel and logistics than any of the others for us. So this year or last year, I guess, is when we were first kind of thinking it would be really great to go, and for sure to come together is a huge, huge benefit. I've spent the last 2 summers alone in the US training for Western States that Gerald did not join because he had different goals. So to not have to do a 2-month break on different continents has been really nice.
Yeah, getting to share some awesome training runs in the San Juans sounds lovely.
Katie, I've been reading a bunch of old interviews with you and things like that in the last 24 hours. And there was one, I think our mutual friend Doug Meyer did, and it was with you and Hillary Girardi. And sort of one of the themes, you might not even remember this, or like it's years ago, but there was kind of a comparison of your styles. And, I think people might say there's one way of looking at trail running, like races are you're competing against the other people. And kind of what I got from it, correct me if I'm wrong, was that you're more of just like competing with yourself and viewing the race as more of a problem to be solved. Is that accurate? And if so, is that what kind of drew you to Hardrock? Is it a problem that you have not interacted with yet?
Yeah, I think maybe if that's the like 2018 interview,
Yeah,
it would be a very long time ago. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody in ultra running is ultimately like just competing against themselves a little bit. I mean, in any sport really, and then use it. We can't deny the fact that we're there to like race with other people. Otherwise, we would just do FKTs or time trials on our own. And it's really what the other people bring to the start line next to you that helps you find your best and like your limit of possibilities. So in a way, yes, of course, like I think that's true for anyone. But I think back then maybe I wasn't as comfortable. Like it was still, if this is the 2018 interview, I think this was still in the time when it wasn't as like normal to say that you were interested in competing or that you cared about competing. And I think I definitely look back on some things I said back then and I'm like, yeah, I was kind of like holding back because I didn't want to be perceived as like being too competitive or too like focused on, outcome goals, which I think in some ways it's of course important to have process goals, and those are my main goals of any race. But we stand on start lines to race other people, like that's why we're there. So you have to admit some of that too, and I'm really happy to see that that's gotten a lot more normal in ultra running to say that you want to win a race or to say that you want to be in the top 10 or and I heard a lot of that in Western States interviews, and it made me happy to hear that people were finally feeling comfortable saying what they actually felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're out for blood. You're out for blood now, is what you're saying. Like,
No, I think you there's definitely a balance between
okay.
like using the competitive feeling. You have to use that to ultimately race yourself. Like you have to see it as something that's helping you be better. It's difficult to describe, but yeah, for sure. Like if you come to a race like UTMB and you're an elite runner, like you want to win. You're not dreaming about coming in 19th.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's an expensive vacation with snacks. I'm curious in that regard, what shifted for you? Because I think, like you said, there has been a bit of a cultural shift around like normalizing, I think, especially women saying like, I'm here to do a thing. I would like to do this thing. But I'm curious like what your internal process for embracing that more has looked like as well.
I think a lot of it for me is just being like kind of challenging myself. There's so many races in ultra running right now. It's really easy to find a race. Like if you're training full time, you're a professional athlete, it's pretty easy to find a race that you could go win. If you go do 20 races in the year and you find a bunch, I mean, there's so many races. And it's more about like being honest with yourself, like what's going to make you try your hardest in training or like be the most focused or like feel like you perfected your craft the most. Like which races are going to bring that out in you, even if it's scarier to stand on those start lines. For me, that's UTMB Western States in terms of 100-mile races. If we're only talking about the competitive field. And then, of course, in other distances too, I'm just kind of talking about 100-mile races right now, which is not all of ultra running. But yeah, so kind of kind of feeling that fear when you think of, okay, if I go to this race, maybe I won't win, or maybe I won't podium, or maybe I won't be in the top 10. But in that process, am I going to like become a better athlete? And I think that's what's become more important to me. And it kind of like helped me get rid of this more fear factor of not doing well and just thinking about like, okay, but even if I don't do well, if I spent 2 months preparing for this race, like with all my focus, all my dedication, I'm going to come out of it a better athlete, even if I, don't even finish the race.
Yeah. If the Dubuque Rotary 25K is no longer stretching you, got to keep just moving up.
Hey,
there is, of course, a time and place for other races. Like, I don't want to like talk down on other races.
Yes.
I love going to other races to like try different things. But in terms of like getting me fired up to like really just to try hard and feel like I really got everything out of myself, those are the bigger stages where I feel like I can do that.
I just want to say that there is a 100-mile race in Dubuque that my friend actually directs, and Katie, I think you do really well there. It's trail, but it's loops. I don't know if that makes a difference, but
loops.
So I've done the 100K a couple times, but
loops around Dubuque. Well, shout out the Dubuque running community.
Yeah. But yeah.
So sort of talking about that intention and focus you bring to those events that feel particularly sticky or inspiring for you, I'm curious if you've made like any specific shifts or changes besides relocating continents for Hardrock.
Yeah, Hardrock has been, I feel like more of the challenge is coming from not knowing very much about the race and having to be a lot more like patient than usual. I've done UTMB 4 times. I've run OCC once and CCC once, so that's 6 UTMB races. Even years I didn't run, I was still like around the event. I live in France. Like I know that course, and that's not like there's nothing new or surprising about the race itself. Of course, there's things that come up within a race that could be surprising, but the race itself is not something that surprises me. Same with Western States now. Like I feel like I know that race. Diagonal des Fous I'd already been to the island twice before I ran the race myself. So even though it was new, I still knew a lot more about the race than I know about Hardrock. And there's also so few people who even get the opportunity to do this race that there's like so little information compared to any other race, really, regardless of how competitive it is or anything. There's just only less than 200 people a year. So
it's like 178, 175.
Yeah. and it was canceled 2 years in a row in the recent past. So like, it's kind of this like big, like black box for me, honestly. And we didn't even get to get on the course that much because there was snow and logistics. And so, yeah, there's just like a lot of unknown. And that's made training interesting because I don't like have, the idea of what the race will be like in my mind. I don't know how I'm going to feel in different places. If after whatever 12 hours, if the altitude becomes like a crazy difficult thing, or if I manage it okay. And yeah, there's basically just a million questions, and there's very few things I'm certain about. So that's kind of been the training theme the last couple weeks.
Question marks.
Have you
Yeah.
have you reached out to anybody for advice? I mean, I feel like there's very few people who have finished the race relative to, say, like UTMB, but there's very few people who have finished it very quickly, like the pace that you're accustomed to. Is there anyone you've reached out to? Can I say, hey, what mistakes should I make?
I've chatted with a lot of people about the race even before I got in or knew that I was going to be able to do it this year. I feel like everyone has their own, as Jean or the French would say, everyone has their own truth about what the race is and what is hard and what is easy. And so I've listened to a lot of things, and then I've gotten here and completely disagreed with some things that people told me. And yeah, it's hard to know. Also, every year is really different with the snowpack and like the weather and temperature, and and how the field sorts itself out because there's so few people. I know that people often spend a huge amount of time not running with anyone, but maybe that changes the pace. And so I have chatted with people, but I still don't feel like there's anyone who's given me I don't feel like there's information I heard that really changed too much of what I'm doing. It's
no
nice
great
to hear
Hardrock beta.
For sure some good stuff. Like, it was good to know some things before getting here, like the fact that your feet are wet like the entire race, which is true. I won't disagree with that. But other things I think I'm just gonna have to wait and see for myself how it goes.
I always find that difficult with trying to hunt down other people's race reports, because at a certain point it very much transitions from accurately describing the race to an very interior subjective exploration that really starts to bleed into it and makes it so hard to be not really sure if you're giving me beta or sort of doing a little bit of low-key therapy on yourself, but thank you for your time.
Yeah, I've heard everything from this race is extremely technical to it's not technical at all to you are not going to
I don't want to spoil
it
for you, but it is pretty technical.
I don't think either of those statements is true.
Oh, intriguing.
Well, there's still 40K of dirt roads.
True.
I think there's more dirt road. There's less single track here than at Western States, actually. So
fascinating.
I think this might be a good segue into sort of asking you how your working in the White Mountain huts in college has colored your perception of things like that, like what's technical and what's not, and what that experience was like, and how that's probably, I assume, stuck with you since then.
Yeah, growing up in the Northeast, all you know is technical trails. You don't know that trails can be easy to walk on. So that's how I made this transition to finding this sport, because I didn't know you could actually run on a trail, because I couldn't imagine being able to actually run on a trail until I moved to Utah, and there's sidewalks in the mountains. So yeah, I would say my perception of what is technical is probably the limit is maybe a little bit higher. But now that I've been running so much on the UTMB and Western States style races, I've gotten a lot worse at technical running. So that's unfortunate. But here there's also really different types of technical terrain. Like here, I would say it's more, right now it's just really dry here. So there's gravel on hard pack. So it's not that you have to be jumping between rocks. It's just that you can't really run that fast or you're going to slip. So there's different styles.
And sort of along that note, you have a background in geology and studying rocks. I'm curious how that influences or colors your trail running, if at all.
Yeah, this is always a hard question to answer because I think people want to draw some type of connection between geology and trail running. I mean, in the end, trail running is a sport. I think the two topics attract the same kind of people, people who are interested in being outside and spending time in the mountains. So in that way, I guess they're similar. But I think it's also hard to know what it would be like to not be like interested in landscape formation. So in some ways, it's hard to like remove myself from what I already know. But Jarmo and I are both geologists, actually. So yeah, it makes it even harder because I have no idea what other people are seeing when they look at landscapes. I mean, we're always like, oh, look at that, like landslide or that rock glacier or that, whatever. So yeah, I think it just gives me, I really like to have answers to questions. Again, why this like training has been interesting. But I think like studying landscape formation allows you to like have some answers to questions when you're looking at landscapes, or like give you tools to think about more questions to ask. Yeah, I don't know if that helps.
No, that's exactly. I was just curious to like how does that change or what are you thinking when you're moving through these landscapes as someone that has higher than average awareness of how they happen?
I mean, most of the time I'm thinking just like everybody else, like, okay, right foot, left foot, breathe. Do I need to eat something? How long to the next, whatever, rail crossing? But I think it's just more like when you stop for a minute and you look around, or maybe it makes it easier for Jean-Paul and I to like discuss a place where we're like, oh yeah, I was up there, and oh, did you see? Yeah, it was on the right of that moraine, or yeah, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking. It's more just like labeling things. But I guess again, like I don't know what it would be like to see a landslide and not understand that it's a landslide, or see like an avalanche path and not say like clearly there was an avalanche there in the last like 3 years. But I think a lot of people know that stuff just from being outside, from running, from skiing, and you don't need a degree to know those things. It's just picked up with time. Maybe I know a few more vocabulary words than someone who doesn't have a degree in earth science, but I think it's at least the really superficial, like basic stuff. I think most people, if they're interested in where they are, they'll pick up on it.
Some awareness of applied geology and physics.
Yeah.
How far into the first date were you two before you were like, you like geology too? Like, I have a PhD. I'm getting a PhD in geology.
You like rocks?
Yeah, you like trail running. You're like, wow, this is awesome.
I mean, it's kind of necessary to describe why I was in Europe.
Yeah.
To say that I was there to get a PhD in geology. So, but yeah, he has a master's in geologic engineering. So, of course, that like came up very quickly. We met at a trail race, so that didn't need to be explained.
Yeah.
That's
very helpful.
That's a lot of geologic knowledge. It's not like just two people who got a bachelor's.
Yeah.
It's a solid amount.
You would think.
Yeah. I suspect that there's more than a couple vocabulary words that y'all picked up in your time. I would hope, but I don't have the PhD.
The French they of course have their own words for everything, so we have to figure out which words we're using.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. This is kind of out of left field, but I think a lot of people know you as UTMB champion, Western States champion, but I don't think a lot of people, maybe a lot of people know this, that you scored the game-winning goal in the state championship in field hockey in high school in 2009. So kind of you've been a champion for a long time. I was wondering, does your high school field hockey coach or coaches, do you know if they know of your success as an ultra runner? Is there any story there where they do you know? Have you talked to them?
Yeah, very much so. They follow everything. Okay. Yeah, they're active on Facebook and follow everything and are always commenting. I mean, so like to make this answer longer, my mom is the mayor of our town, or it's
No
a
way.
city, obviously, because she's mayor. And she's constantly like posting things on Facebook. Like, I think she's basically my community manager of Facebook, because she's just like posting. She's a Facebook fiend. So everybody in town, of course, like they all follow the stuff that she's sharing and watch like the live feed of things. But my field hockey coaches in particular in high school were like very important in my like development, not only as an athlete, but just as a teenager. And I stayed in touch with them a lot through college and after. So they've always been part of my life. And yeah, actually, I ran into my high school gym teacher in the grocery store around Thanksgiving, and she was like so stoked to see me. And she's like, I follow all your races. It's so cool what you're doing. So that stuff's really fun, actually, when I go home and people are like telling me they watched the live stream of UTMB. I picture like all of the town of Gardner, Maine with their TVs. Yeah. Trying to figure out what they're looking at in France, Switzerland. Yeah.
They're like, man, this
Is your
thing's
mom-
24 hours long. Wow.
Is your mom posting from her personal account or from the Mayor of Gardner account when she's doing your
There's no
community
Mayor of
manager?
Gardner account. It's just,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. It's
Oh,
just,
well,
okay.
there's probably a City Hall account, but no, it's her
Okay.
personal. Yeah.
It's just, she's
Be
not
pretty
like,
great
as
if,
the
like-
mayor, I think everyone should know about my daughter's race coming up this weekend.
Would be pretty awesome if like the official like city government like Twitter was retweeting UTMB live.
I wouldn't be
ideal.
surprised if that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've
Fantastic.
spent a good bit of time now training and racing and living in Europe, but you've been over here this summer. I'm curious, like, are there any fun, quirky differences that you've noticed besides maybe coffee quality?
Well, the coffee quality
yes.
where we live is terrible, so I wouldn't. They're both bad. Sorry, everybody, but
Still
I
in
just have
search of the perfect espresso.
I'm not really an espresso person, but I have my whole like pour over setup at home that I didn't travel with. I really should have just gotten a plastic cone and like
Yeah.
got a hand grinder or something. But anyway, I've just been using the coffee machines in the Airbnbs, which whatever makes you appreciate good coffee. Yeah, I think the biggest differences, I mean, just in terms of like training and running around here, are mostly just the remoteness. Like in Europe, you're always running through towns and ski resorts. And I mean, actually, where we live is quite remote for the Alps, but still, you're never like too far from a hut or something. And you have cell service. Well, where we live, cell service like maybe half the time, and most of the Alps you have cell service like all the time. Here it's I feel like there's no cell service anywhere. Maybe that's just our bad like French SIM cards that aren't connecting to towers. But yeah, we're definitely
that
running
sounds
with...
pretty accurate for the San Juans. Yeah, for Colorado.
Okay. Yeah, we're definitely running with like a little bit more safety gear, like bringing maybe one more layer than we normally would, and also running like more together than we normally would at home, just to keep tabs on each other in case something happens. So yeah, there's a bit more of this like you need to be a bit more responsible, which you should be in the Alps too. But I think sometimes we just get like, oh, we just like acknowledge the crutch of how easy it is to get assistance with things. The other thing is the water. It's like on the same line of thinking. Aren't just like fountains everywhere. So the water filtering is kind of annoying when you're on a long run. That's been frustrating. Honestly, I'm really happy for that to be over with soon because my hands are getting like cramping up from squeezing through those filter flasks. But yeah, those are probably the two big things. I actually didn't realize there was such a big like ATV Jeep culture here. I feel like that's not covered in any of the Hardrock race media, like how many Jeeps and various types of ATVs are around. That was like kind of a huge surprise for us when we got to Ouray, and then a week later it started to be like Jeep season, and we were like, oh wow, this is a thing. Like we had no idea.
Yeah. The sport of trail running is pretty silly, but I also think the sport activity, I don't know what it qualifies as, of driving a car in places where you maybe shouldn't drive a car is even sillier to me.
We had yesterday we did like a point to point run, and we got a shuttle from a guy in town who has a side by side. This is a new vocabulary word for me. Even coming from Maine, I mean, in Maine we just have four wheelers. So this guy had a side by side, which anyone listening who does not know what that is, it's basically like a off road go kart, but like four wheels, very stable. And we got picked. He lives in town, and he went and drove over and picked us up in it and drove us back and gave us like a little side tour in it also on the way back. And it was pretty fun. I mean, I don't think I have the time to maintain one of those things, but like I thoroughly enjoyed the trip in that. So no complaints. If it gets more people outside and they're all on the same road, I mean, yeah, they go for it.
More people appreciating geology.
Yeah.
If you
I
want,
mean, more, yeah.
If you don't want to make that, I think they're like $15,000. They sell them at Lowe's here in Montana, where I am. But there's also another subculture, which is like remote control car rock crawling. Much less expensive if you're just wanting to do that, but on a smaller level,
like
something you
dip
probably
a toe
couldn't
in.
Yeah, dip a toe in. Yes.
Yeah.
Just FYI, I'm sure there's a subreddit you can look up if you're interested.
Could add one more fascinating championship to the LinkedIn page.
Oh wow,
that sounds difficult.
Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know.
I'm curious if they're like, again, having raced and competed in Europe versus the US, what are any like fun running culture differences you've noticed besides the fact that when you train in Europe you're rarely more than an hour away from like a Fanta and like a tart cooked by a gorgeous French person?
It's tough because the US, it's a tough question to answer because the US is so different in different places. It would be hard to group the US as a country. Even when French people ask me, oh, do you do that in the US? Do you have that in the US? I'm like, well, let's remember the US is like an enormous place. I mean, I've had even my partner asking me questions here, like other French people asking me questions about the San Juans. I know nothing about the San Juans. I've never been here before, so I'm just as new as them. So yeah, in that way, it's hard to really compare. I think the sport of trail running is like pretty international now. I mean, it's always been pretty international, but I feel like we have more Americans coming to Europe and more Europeans coming to the US. So it's sort of like more blended now that the sport is becoming more professional. People have the opportunity to travel and spend extended periods of time in other places. So honestly, I think it's pretty similar. Maybe there's like a little bit more spandex, a little bit more matching outfits in Europe, less button-up shirts, but maybe the one thing is just that in the US, there's still this like friction with races that are less than 50K. Like the US doesn't seem to know how to handle them. Like I I find it very interesting that they have somewhere along the way we went from calling trail running to calling it sub ultra running. Like it's already a sport. It's called trail running. And then the niche version of trail running is ultra running. And then somewhere someone was like, we should take the opposite of the niche to then like negate it again. I don't know. So this like really, I think this is a great example of like in the US, trail running is ultra running. And in Europe, trail running is trail running. And then there's also ultra running.
It makes me so happy to have you say that instead of me. I'm like, what does that mean? It's hilarious.
I tried to kind of like send a few messages when I first heard this term, like, guys, the sport already has a name. It's called trail running.
It's called running. You're describing running.
Yeah, it caught on. So if it helps clarify that it's a shorter race, fine. But I just feel like the less than super long running is interesting, but whatever.
I'll start describing all non-trail running as non-trail running so that people are especially clear.
Pavement
I'm
running.
doing the London non-trail marathon.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Concrete.
Yes. Concrete marathon.
Have you considered a sub-marathon on the road? There's other Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I have the same gripe with people calling it the full marathon because it just already is full. It's a marathon. It's the full
That's
thing.
right. That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
There's a whole like social media discussion that happened, I don't know, in like the last few months about people think like referring to a 5K as a marathon. And I like had to dive pretty deep into it to try to understand how that would be a thing. But yeah, I think it's the same. I think we're in the same waters here. Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's not. It's not. It's not a no. The thing is, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
in
Yeah.
the US there definitely is this like fixation on distance. Like correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's quite as many like loop races in Europe because it's kind of more like, oh, we'll find this aesthetic line that connects this village to that village and that's the race, or we'll circumnavigate this island and that's the race, whatever the distance is that like makes sense depending on the geography. Whereas in the US, you'll like there'll be like, you know, the 100K where you circumnavigate like a Safeway parking lot until you get to 100K. And it's so much more about just like racking up the mileage than like necessarily traversing a landscape, which, you know, no shade. People do what you do, you know, go Dubuque 100K. But it's definitely a different approach to the sport that like leads to this like crazy obsession with distance above like anything else.
Yeah, I see that too. I think the races are definitely originally at least were more based on just like the route in Europe, and if that meant it was an ultra, it was an ultra. And I think in the US it's more about like checking the box of doing 100 miles or doing 100K. Of course, there's still like Hardrock somehow comes out to like exactly 100 miles. It has like a pretty aesthetic loop. Western States, of course, is like, I mean, that was already historically 100 miles for the horse race, and that's a pretty, like, it makes sense, the route. So there's definitely still some of that. But yeah, less obsession with like the distance being exact.
well, this arbitrary unit of measurement that was created based on, I think, the length of somebody's foot at some point. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm having trouble actually with the distances here. I keep having to convert things and it's confusing.
you're fully assimilated in France at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the metric
Um,
system, but not espresso. Fascinating.
Yeah,
yes.
well, espresso is all like burnt. I don't like, yeah.
Katie, so it's like, I think 2021, your UTMB race. I think I read in one of these interviews that you're like disappointed with the result when you got eighth, and it's hard to that's been less than 4 years, but I feel like you've done so much in those 4 years and been so successful. How do you feel, or have you thought about this, how things have changed approaching a race like Hardrock now as opposed to 2021, 2019, those years? Have you given that much thought, or have you noticed differences?
I for sure the biggest difference is just that this is my whole life now, and at those times I wasn't I don't think I was working at 100% then, but I was still working at a like part-time, and I couldn't just like leave for 2 months and just like only train. Not that I only train, I do a lot more than that in the day, but just have that be my focus. And I don't think I was really ready for that at that time. I didn't know how I would have done that. Um, but yeah, it's a combination of like experience, having the time, and having time is also having time to rest and to come here early and just have that space to like figure out what's going to work, and at the same time like not be tired basically in daily life. But the whole sport has completely changed since then, so it's really hard to even think to compare those years. Yeah, like the level of both the men's and women's fields, especially the women's field, has just like increased so much. At that 8th place wouldn't be in the top 10 anymore at UTMB. Neither would my 6th place from 2019. I would be in the teens, I think. And that's saying a lot about what like the women and the men are bringing to the sport. Like there's just more. I think there's more professionalism, so people are taking it more seriously. they're getting help from people who know what to do better than they do. They're able to train more because they have support from sponsors, so they can train better, and they're getting faster. And it's the same for me, like all those things, and it's happening for everyone. But I think since then I have matured a lot as an athlete. I've been able to like kind of see competition as like more a fun thing, like I alluded to at the beginning, and not see it as a stressor. Of course, it's still a stressor, but you have to think of it as like a positive stressor. And yeah, I think just everything in general I've gotten better at, both like physically and organizationally, and yeah, everything has gotten a little bit better.
I'm curious what you feel like you've improved the most on organizationally.
I think then I guess 2021, I was sort of starting to like think, okay, maybe this is something I want to do like for a longer period of time, and maybe something I would take a little bit more seriously. 2019 is definitely more like I just like love doing this, and I'm a PhD student, and I'll probably do a postdoc next, and this is like a cool thing to love, but I don't know if this is like a viable career option. So I think when I say organizationally, I mean more like
Like the
having a
infrastructure
coach.
that supports the thing.
Yeah, like having a whole support team, and um yeah, like finding a new coach who was really like more focused on ultra running, getting support with nutrition, getting support with like my mental approach to competition, um, having time to plan things and not just like planning things at the last minute, not just racing, but like also training. I used to only have like the weekends to do bigger things, and it was always like getting back from the post work, beer hangout on Friday night and like trying to pack my bag and be ready to take the train in the morning. Now I can, have more sense of calm, and just like everything can just be a little bit better, and all those things add up.
Nice.
Has anybody ever asked you about, like on one of these podcasts, anybody ever asked you about your PhD dissertation? Or to talk about...
Someone probably did at some point.
I'm just curious if you are able to explain it in layperson's terms at all. Has it ever come up like in these circles?
Oh man, I haven't given the elevator pitch in a long time, so it's gonna be really embarrassing if I mess it up. But I was like, yeah, the really basic version. I was working in Nepal, following the 2015 Gorkha earthquake that devastated the country. A lot of people remember this earthquake, but I was specifically looking at landslides caused by earthquakes and trying to use these landslides as ultimately as a way to see what longer term erosion in the Himalaya might have looked like. I was scooping sand out of rivers, that if you really want to know what I was doing.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, like, and have you ever put Dr. Schide on a business card or in any sort of online thing?
I heard someone told me once that I should put it on my flight ticket because I might have a better chance of getting an upgrade. So I put it once before, I think, and I was like, this is silly.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's something when people know you as a trail runner, but they're like, oh, doctor. Oh, okay, doctor. That's it's impressive.
I like calling other people with PhDs doctor as like a joke. So yeah.
Yep.
Rock doctor. Sure. So you've gotten to travel the world and do a lot of really cool races that are on a lot of people's bucket lists, right? Like UTMB, Western States, Hardrock, I think particularly because for so many people it is so hard to get into / like takes maybe several years and or never to get in. I'm curious if there are any races on your bucket list that you haven't yet done.
Oh, yeah. Sure. There's a long list. Let's see. Well, actually, it's more like doing things again. I would like to do Lavaredo again. I would like to do Templier again. I would really like to do Wasatch at some point because it was one of the first races I was really exposed to when I lived in Salt Lake. And I just really love that area, and I would love an excuse to go back and run. But I think that lottery is even more difficult than here because there's no there's no organization pick. So I would have to start putting my name in for that. And it's also at the same time as everything else. Same with Leadville, also at the same time as everything else. So after staying in Leadville for that time earlier this year, I was way more interested in the race. Yeah, I mean, I have like a list of a lot of races I'd like to do. I haven't done Transvolcania. I'd like to do Zagama again, 90K de Mont Blanc again. So yeah, I have like just endless things, too many, that it makes it difficult to plan things.
Awesome. Well, those are all of my questions, Brendan. Anything else you want to close us out with?
I do not have a zinger at all, but I was happy to hear, I think on an interview at some point, you said that you don't listen to music when you run, which is, I am also a non-headphone wearer when I run. I was so overjoyed. Like, oh, works good enough for Katie Schide, good enough for me.
I honestly don't know how people run on trails with music. It really, I have tried it because I'm like, okay, everyone else is doing this, like it must be awesome, but it really throws me off. Like I feel out of balance. I feel like I don't know what's going on around me. I feel like I have completely different sensations. So yeah, I do listen to music like when I'm running on the bike path in Nice when we're down there, like, yeah, because I don't really enjoy listening to cars drive by. But yeah, I've never used headphones in a race. I don't want to be someone who like gives really strong opinions and then is like won't change their mind. But yeah, I'm pretty anti headphones in races at this point. Maybe my mind will be changed at some point, but
if you convert, we won't hunt you down.
No,
you're allowed to change your mind.
Yes, you can evolve as a person. It's fine, or whatever, or devolve. I don't know what we're trying to say here, but yeah.
I'm not sure if like bumping Carly Rae on the trails is necessarily like a step forward in human evolution.
I guess it works for some people, and some people really enjoy it. So I'm like 100% supportive if that makes their run better. But for me, I just like the sound of like nothing in my brain.
I also enjoy having positive memories of songs rather than hating them because I was in so much pain the last time I listened to it or whatever. But I think it was like Scott Jurek said it was as good as ibuprofen, which I think the jury is out on that as far as
maybe
the medical
even
proof
better for your kidneys.
Yeah, but he's also very successful. So yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, Scott's a good guy, so maybe I should take his advice.
No, I mean, I think you're doing fine, honestly. Okay. Yeah, it seems like it's going.
It's okay also one less thing to deal with. Like it's
Trailhead approved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'm good. Thanks so much for taking the time for this, Katie.
Yeah.
And like it's cool that you worked out to be sort of on the same time zones too. I think we're all on Mountain Time right now.
Thanks for coming over to our continent.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's always fun to come back, and yeah, Jamal loves the US too, so it was a long stretch there with the COVID restrictions, and now he's free to come back. So, well, we'll see for how long, but yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Katie.
Thanks.